Hello, my name is Jerry Ford. I am a certified master chef and former captain of the United States National Culinary Team. I'm here to discuss a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way to make my life a little bit easier. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a Vita Prep blender. Along the way, I'll discuss some things that have worked for me in the past. I'll probably drop in some tidbits, share some recipes. My goal is to help whoever's out there looking for any information they can get up to speed as quickly as humanly possible. Not based on content that was relevant 10 years ago, but things that have become very relevant over the last 2, possibly 3 years. It's very important to me that I pass on as much information as I can as quickly as humanly possible so that the next generation of competitors, the next Culinary Team USA, starts off exactly where we left off. I'm here with absolute humility. I look forward to questions, comments, any information you'd want to know. Please, don't be shy to ask. Kind of a novice at this so far. So my goal is to present as much useful information as I can in the best possible way I can come up with. I look forward to your comments. I look forward to sharing as much as I can with you. And stick around. It should be entertaining. Alright, so as I was talking about tips and techniques, my head's a little cut off right now. We'll work that out. One of the things that I keep noticing in competition is the challenge of blending the proper quantity. We don't really think about this in day-to-day operations, but the key is minimizing waste and reducing leftovers. Actually, yet another key to that. Same thing with any certification exam, master chef test. The less you produce, or the closer you produce to what exactly you need, the less time you spend doing unnecessary work. You need to produce for 12 people, so you should produce for 12 people, not 16. It presents a whole nother slew of issues and challenges along the way. We'll talk more about that in the future. One of the coolest things that I've found through my preparation for competition is the ability to develop myself as a cook. The more you compete, the more you find yourself getting better at the day-to-day tasks, getting better at your work, getting better at your job. So along the ways, right, Vitamix standard issue blender cup. This is 2 liter, so 2 liters is just about 2 quarts. By no means am I saying it's the same thing. The next version, through competition and through practice, I have come to find, is this other guy right here. This is a 1 liter, or a 32-ounce cup. So half the size, incredibly effective, much better, much smaller production. Again, 350 grams, though, still puts you, right about here. So at least you're going to be able to get enough in the cup to spin it. Okay. What happens when you want less than that? I just recently found this out, and this was a discovery as I was getting ready for the Culinary Olympics. This guy right here. This is the Vitamix smoothie cup. I know, smoothie cup. But competition forces you to look in other directions that you wouldn't normally look into. So the smoothie cup is it's a couple parts. There's a couple different cups, but primarily you've got a cup component and a base. Now the rest of this box can go away. I want to show the box though, because I'll tell you what, this thing is amazing, and it works on the C series and the G series, which are the standard tops for Vitamix and Vita Prep. So anywhere up until the new machines. I know there's a new home version that you need a special adapter for, but most every restaurant blender that I've worked on that's a Vitamix or a Vita Prep, this guy fits. So it's a beauty. Real simple, product goes in, top goes on. Right. This thing sits right in the blender. I successfully was able to make a batch of puree that was 150 grams. It had to be a little liquid so that it would fall to the bottom with the blade. But 150 grams is about a half a cup. It's pretty awesome. If you look in here, you see there's a seal at the bottom. The blade construction is pretty much the same. This thing is really very durable. And so I've got a little recipe for what we call slurry that I actually learned when I was training for the book Whose Door. I spent a little bit of time at 11 Madison Park, and this was a slurry that they make that is really very versatile. It's used for finishing vegetables, finishing fruits, creating a beautiful shine. Pretty confident it's in the 11 Madison Park book as well. I'll have to check and take a look at that. So we'll just go through and we'll talk slurry. So just for the sake of discussion, right? The batch, I've got, so the slurry, quote unquote slurry, right? It's a slurry because it's really just ingredients that are mixed together. This is 200 grams of verjus, right? White verjus. 50 grams of citric acid. 1 gram of xanthan gum, or 0.5%. Really, that's more of a preference, right, for consistency, for final result. And then I've got 2 grams of salt, just because I like to make sure that this thing's got some seasoning to it, and especially when you start to see applications later come about. So, so this is going to be a 200 gram batch, right? 200 grams. It's just over 3/4 of a cup. One of the other things while competing that I've come to realize, and maybe kicking and screaming at first, was you cannot deny the accuracy of grams over standard measurements. There's just no substitution for it whatsoever. So in goes the 200 grams of verjus. You see how much of the blender that actually takes up. Got a little rubber spatula here. So as you can tell, down here at the bottom. And then when I'm mixing xanthan gum, I always like to combine it with some other dry ingredients, particularly salt. Citric acid is a powder, vitamin C powder. It's something that will help disperse that instead of letting the xanthan gum completely and totally stick together. Right, so we pull those dry ingredients together, give them a quick shake, then we give the blender a quick spin. So low, throw the top on, it shouldn't be an issue. Now, I find it completely necessary to add in the dry ingredients while the blender's spinning. This prevents anything from getting on the blade. So as you can tell, the blender is just barely covered the blades, but we still got a pretty decent mix. So that's 200 grams. And a good majority of it's still in this giant blender cup, which is yet another problem with, you know, the big blender. It's a whole lot of scraping, and another great piece of equipment is this little Rubbermaid scraper. They're small, they get into all the little nooks and crannies, and with time being such a key factor in competition, you really don't want to spend a whole lot of time scraping that out. You definitely lose kitchen score points though if you're leaving all of that material. Next, for round 2, we're going to move on to the smaller container. This is the 1 liter, 1 quart, much smaller, much more competition friendly, just because of how tiny it is and how, I would say, appropriately sized. Regular standard bottom, Amazon buy, pretty simple. Tend to let the slurry go a little bit longer because the more you shear the xanthan gum, the less mucilaginous, I believe is the word, or boogery it comes out. So here we are, right? You can see 200 grams with a bunch of air, and it fills it up to right about at the 1 cup line. A lot more appropriate for the quantity that you're blending. Still some of the same troubles, but a lot easier to get in, a lot less nooks and crannies. It's a lot easier to clean out at the blade, and I can assure you that with something like a squash puree or any random vegetable puree, really, you're not going to have, you have much better access down into the bottom to get around the blade, which really, evaluators at the IKA, they were looking at the bottom of the blade. They were, checking to see, what kind of product we were wasting. It's just responsible cooking, I suspect. Not even I suspect. It just is. I would say the same thing at, the Master Chef test. So here we go. Same product. Just a little bit easier to get to that end result. Here we go finally with the third and final, my new favorite, the little personal blender cup. A note, it does not recommend using this with hot liquids, but I did successfully make a hot puree with it. I made sure that hot puree was about 160 degrees because I really, I've seen what happens with a blender when you put something super hot in it. And being that this is sealed and under pressure, I didn't want to cause any bodily injury to anybody. I'll probably do some further testing on it, but I wouldn't take a boiling puree and put it right in here. But anyway, for the sake of discussion, this is the personal smoothie cup, right? So same recipe, 200 grams of white verjus, and then our 3 dries. So this is a little bit different. We want to make sure that we take and mix all the dry ahead of time. Right, and then since you can't add this in while it's spinning, I like to just pour it right into the top. Try and pour it right into the middle, and then get that thing ready to go as quickly as humanly possible. So make sure you're threaded right. Give it a quick twist on. I give it a shake to make sure that, my xanthan gum isn't sticking to anything crazy. You can see how it's kind of floating around in there. Over onto the blender base. And then we spin. Stopped, let it rest, let it settle, right? Flip it back over, let it sit for a second. You'll notice that everything's, pretty clean. There's no leaks, no spills or anything like that. Twist the base, right? And then you see that the blade is pretty clean. There's a little bit of material on that blade. You can definitely see that there's a little bit of material on there, but not much really. Minimal waste compared to what you would have found in that 2-liter blender cup. Now, one of my favorite parts of this is really this smoothie cup. It's got no service inside, so it comes out nice and easy, and then it's really, really quick from a competition perspective. Very, very quick from a competition perspective to get it nice and clean, to get all the product out of the cup and be done with it. So that's what I've got for today. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate your time. I hope you learned something. I'm really excited to share a lot of these tips, tricks, any information that I possibly can with you. Look forward to any comments or questions that I can answer. If there are any requests, please feel free to contact or to leave a message down below in comments. And if you're curious and if you're as interested in learning as I am in teaching, click that little subscribe button over there, please. Look forward to seeing more of you, and I'll see you around. Thank you.